So, how many people left your business in the last year? And when did they leave? Was it day 0 to 30 of their employment? Was it 30 to 90? Was it after 6 months? Do you know, did they all leave the same manager? Was it multiple managers, same department, different departments? This data tells a story. Whether it's a story that you're excited to learn about or not, it's a page turner to me. If you're not capturing it, you are making people decisions without having real data to back it up. So that's what we are getting into today. When most small business owners tell me we don't have a lot of turnover, and then I ask them about their retention data, they can't tell me why someone left, or it's all like anecdotal. Oh, well, this person left because of this and this. We don't have a lot. It's just a couple. It's feelings, and data tells you what the actual problems are. If there are problems, I'm not saying you have problems. Maybe you don't have problems. So today we're going over the essential HR metrics that all businesses, small, medium, or large, should track. How to build a simple measurement system. And we'll talk about what the numbers are telling you right now. I'll give you a few examples of numbers that I see and what to do when you see these certain indicators. That's my favorite part because what we want to do is take action. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Waste the Chaos. I'm your host, Kerri Roberts. I have been doing this thing, which is HR and people operations, for over 20 years. And you're catching me in a series right now where I'm walking through the building blocks of human resources. We've gone through HR foundations, which was employer responsibility, hiring, onboarding, HR law and compliance. That's the HR foundation. That's what I wrote my first book about. I've got 3 books that I've written. The first one is published. It got published last year. The second one's in editing, which is really exciting. It should be published later this year. But that first one is about the HR foundation. The second one is about the HR operating system. Foundation has to be laid. Operating system is where we spend most of our time. Think compensation and classification, disciplinary actions, documentation, performance management, things like that. Leave management, that's a big one. That's the HR operating system. You are catching me in the strategic HR portion, where we're talking about terminations and offboarding, where we're talking about benefits, workforce planning, development, and of course, HR metrics. And we're going to get into tech and systems too, because those are all important. So today we're diving into HR metrics. But if you want to get into the foundational piece, pick up a copy of this book that's already published. You can grab it on Amazon or my website. You can also get my coursework. HR Foundations coursework has those first 4 modules and 12 downloadable tools, resources, templates. And then the second one is on the HR operating system. Like I mentioned, you can find both of those at saltandlightadvisors.com/resources. And here in a couple of months, I'm recording this in June. In August, the strategic HR modules will be out as well, which is exciting because that'll probably be, the crux of that coursework that I'm putting out there. And while I was recording an earlier episode today, somebody bought my HR Foundations coursework and my HR Operating Systems coursework and a copy of this book. And when you buy it off my website, I sign it and send it to you. Easier to grab it off Amazon. I totally do not care about that. But they picked it up, which reminds me, this work is worth it. It's important, right? So I'm excited to get into this with you today. We want to talk about why metrics matter for businesses of all size, but specifically, I'm going to talk about small and mid-sized businesses today. Most owners tell me they certainly don't have an HR metric problem, right? Like no one's like, you know what, I really struggle with HR metrics. Like most people are like, those don't matter to me. Don't have time for that. No one's tracking that. Don't even know why that would be important. But if you're saying things like, things feel fine. Morale seems okay. I think people are happy. Feelings are not strategies. And I am a strategy girly. And so I like to base it on the numbers. And when I start talking you through this today, you're going to be like, ooh, I want those numbers too. Let's talk about what metrics are actually telling you. Whether your hiring is working. Is your hiring process working? And we've got some specific metrics to be able to tell you how to figure that out. Whether your onboarding is landing. Are people leaving in the first 90 days? Is onboarding working? Whether a specific manager or department has a retention problem. and you haven't realized that yet. Whether your culture is as healthy as you think or isn't as healthy as you think. That and a million other things, right? Here's a common story that I hear. We don't have a lot of turnover, maybe only like 2 people a year. Well, in 3 years, that's 6 people. When did they leave? Is it a hiring issue? Is it an onboarding issue? Is it a manager issue? I want to know. The data tells you where exactly to address the problem, if there's a problem. Without the data, you're guessing. And you might have pretty good feelings on it, but gosh, a good piece of data really just makes me feel like now I'm like propelled to act because I know exactly what to do. I'm not guessing. Metrics don't require an expensive software. A simple spreadsheet is a great place to start. It's a great place to start. And so I want you to get into this. Let's take a look at your turnover rate. This is the number of people who left in the last year. Let's say I'm recording this in 2026. Let's look at 2025 data if you want, or you can do rolling calendar year. So mid 25 to mid 26, whatever. The number of people that left divided by your average headcount times 100. We want to track this monthly and we want to track this annually. So good. So that's around our retention and turnover. But I've got 3 other ones to talk about with retention and turnover. Time to turnover. This one's huge, you guys. It tells me exactly where to make an impact in your business. When are people leaving? I mentioned this in the intro. Are they leaving 0 to 30 days? Because that's a hiring problem. If they're leaving in 0 to 30 days, could be an onboarding problem, probably a hiring problem. 31 to 90 days, that is an onboarding problem right there. Anything before 90 days, dealing with onboarding, 90 days or more, now we're dealing with a manager problem or a cultural problem or both. That's huge. Time to turnover, huge. I love that. Voluntary versus involuntary turnover, very different stories. Are people leaving? Are we pushing them out? Sometimes we're like, yeah, I knew about that turnover, girl. It needed to happen. Peace. Like, I'm glad you're making decisions in your business that are the right thing. I'm not going to, no judgment there, but I want to know. Because if they're voluntarily leaving, why are people voluntarily leaving? And then retention by manager. This one is important. This one gets a little personal, right? If one manager has 3 times the turnover than anyone else, there's your finding. We understand what's going on there, right? Not great management. We're either going to coach them up or we're going to coach them out, but we need to stop hemorrhaging employees in their department. That's retention and turnover. Let's talk about some hiring metrics that I recommend. Time to fill. The time that you posted an open requisition, a job posting online, whatever you did, to the time that you have an accepted offer. Industry best practice around 30 days for this. If it's taking you longer than 30 days, you've got some bottleneck in the process. And you probably already know, like, yeah, it takes us forever to set up interviews or whatever it is. And maybe that's intentional, but I would recommend you fix that. I could go over this all day long, and you can go to my hiring episode in this series as well. But if it's taking you longer than 30 days, then people are taking other jobs. By the time you're ready to make them an offer, they've already gotten offers at a few places. And what I see is they might accept your offer, but then they've got other offers still coming in, and they will leave you if they get a better offer. Because they're not loyal to you yet. Just started. I just had this happen with a client. A girl had been there for less than 90 days. And she was like, yeah, I got another offer and I took it. And that leader was like, gosh, dang, that sucks. I've been really investing in your onboarding for the first 60 days and now you're bouncing and that sucks. But how long was the hiring process? What did that look like? So that time to fill is very important, more important than you would think. Quality of hire. Are you measuring quality of hire? Well, how would we even measure that? I like a good 90-day review. By 90 days, are they up and running? And if they're not, then we need to look at either the quality of hire, which could go to our job description, our job posting, our interview process, or it could go to our onboarding because we didn't get them up to speed, didn't get them credentials fast enough or the training that they needed or whatever. So quality of hire could speak to a lot of different things, but what's the 90-day performance looking like? What are those expectations and are they meeting it? Let's track it. 90-day reviews, you guys. I'm not talking about probationary periods. I got to be honest. I do not like a probationary period. Here's why. Most of you have in your handbooks that you have a probationary period, but it means crap. It doesn't mean anything. You just say it, but there is no real review. and you're not really doing anything, but you say that you do that to protect yourself, but like you're not really acting on it. There's nothing formal. And even if you did fire someone, there is no like, oh, well, you had a probationary period in your hand. Like there's no real protection there, by the way. It's still an unemployment claim potentially, or wrongful termination, discrimination, who knows? So probationary periods, that's not a thing to me, by the way. But source of hire is another one. Where you're posting the jobs and where the good people are coming in from, just stop posting in the other places. You're wasting time. Really go all in on wherever is bringing you the jobs. Is that referrals? Is that LinkedIn? Is it Indeed? Is it industry websites? Is it associations? Like what has worked for you with the best hires that you've had, and double freaking down. Maybe buy ads even there. So really focus on that. So source of hire. All right. So we've went over turnover and retention data. We've gone over what the hiring metrics should be. Let's talk about engagement and absenteeism. A lot of people want to focus on employee engagement, that they are literally measuring nothing other than maybe an employee engagement and satisfaction survey, which is good, by the way. But there's other data that you want to look at. Absenteeism. Absenteeism is a really good one. Absenteeism rate. That's the number of days absent of a person divided by their total scheduled days. If there's a spike in absenteeism, there's a potential morale concern there. And you want to take a look at that. That's going to impact engagement. Why is that person all of a sudden not feeling loyal to be at work? And maybe it's a legitimate reason. Like maybe it's FMLA related. Who knows? Do you? You don't if you're not tracking it. So track that absenteeism, really. And if you have an HR payroll system, it can do this for you. Just tap into the reports because it's already tracking if you have people putting in their paid time off or unscheduled time, unpaid time, whatever that looks like. You should have that data, be able to report on it and see who is it that's calling in or scheduling a lot of vacation time. If they're burning through all their vacation time and your policy says they don't get paid out upon termination, ding, 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 we've got somebody that's getting ready to quit, right? This data tells a story. Engagement pulse. So if you're not doing a big engagement and satisfaction survey, which I recommend once a year, I especially, and this isn't just a plug for me, even though I love doing these, I recommend you have a third party do these. Why is that? It's not just to keep me in work, you guys, because I have a wait list. It is because that data is huge, but people maybe won't be as candid if you're executing it internally. So even if you have an HR pro, if you're doing it internally, it kind of signals like, can they track my IP address? I mean, they know what my IP address is. This is a company issued computer. So even if you like don't ask names, you know what I'm saying? So when I do it externally, let me just walk you through my process real quick. I create the survey questions based on the industry and a number of other variables, and also like what you're struggling with in your organization, where you want to hone in. Maybe you're really wanting to dig into benefits data this time. It kind of depends. But I send you a sample list of questions. I want this survey to be able to be done in 6 to 7 minutes tops. Otherwise, people don't want to complete it because it takes too long. Trust me, I want to ask 100 questions because I want all the data and the reports. Give it to me. I want to create an action plan, but people aren't going to complete it. So I like to keep it about 6 to 7 minutes. I do some identifiers. Like let's say I've got a client that has 41 locations. I want to know what type of business unit they're coming from. So we might do it by location, unless some of the locations are really small, then we might do it by like industry segment. If they own a lot of different, types of businesses. I'm trying not to give away who this client is. So there's a lot of ways to slice and dice without doing names, but I'm very sensitive if you have business units that are small, because then if we're segmenting too deeply, then that business unit is going to feel like they're identifiable and they won't give feedback. I take all of that into consideration, so you don't have to. So I send you the drafts and you either approve it or you don't. I usually walk you through my mindset on how we got there. And then I'm just plugging it into a simple survey tool. I pay for one. I don't charge you for that. That's just part of your engagement with me. But I plug it into the survey tool. And then I draft you, typically the CEO, a message that you can send out, tweak it to make it make sense for you. But you send it out and you say, we've got a third party doing this. Here's why we're doing it. Here's what we're going to do with the data. Here's what you can expect. And it has the survey link in it. I can send the email out if you want me to, but I love to see it come from the business owner because we want the highest response rates possible, right? And I'm a stranger in many ways. So The business owner sends the email out, and then from there, I will reach out and give reminders, or somebody internally for you can give reminders like, hey, 3 days left to complete the survey. Complete the survey by the end of the day today. We love your feedback. Thank you for taking the time, all of this stuff. And then when the data comes in, here we go. I am slicing and dicing, and I am whitewashing the data. And I put this in the email that the CEO sends out. You will get back themes and trends, but I try not to give you any specific written feedback, like verbatim, here's the 2 sentences that this person wrote. I'm going to do it in general because I don't want it to be identifiable. I'm going to lose trust with people. You're going to lose trust with people, and then they won't give the feedback. So I like to have non-identifying data. I typically, when I say trends, I'm looking for 3 or more people said something. And then, of course, I'm looking at the overall percentages of response and things like that. It's so powerful. We meet as a management team. We sit down together. I tell you what I've learned. I advise you on what I think next steps are. And then together, we draft employee communication. Hey, we heard you. Thank you so much for your feedback. These were the key takeaways. Or maybe you're doing a town hall meeting or something like that. But I help you draft all of that. Here were our key takeaways. And either we're working as a management team to put together our next steps, or we're going to put together a focus group if you'd like to be a part of the focus group. There's a lot of ways to win on this. But then we're reporting out with regularity. Here's what we're doing to address these issues and why. I just went on an engagement survey tangent, but gosh dang, this is a huge win. But you can do an easier one, like a pulse survey on a quarterly basis, and just ask, do you feel valued? Do you have what you need? Would you recommend working here? It can be as simple as that if you want it to be, but it can be a lot more complex. So totally up to you on how often you want to do that. You do not need a formal survey software. You could just use Google Forms if you want to, or, like whatever you've got. Sometimes your HR payroll system has it. Sometimes you've got a Survey Monkey, like it doesn't have to be overly complicated. But that's around engagement and absenteeism. Track it. You're going to be amazed at what comes out of it. Fourth quarter category of things that I recommend tracking are around performance metrics. I want to know the percentage of employees that have documented performance goals. Well, if you've never done that before, then it's 0. And here's your sign that you need to have documented performance goals for employees. I also want to know the percentage of employees that have received a performance review in the last 12 months. Again, this is data you should be able to pull from your HR payroll software. And if the answer is, we haven't done that systematically, let's get together. Let's do some performance reviews. And guess what? At the end of the performance review, we're going to have a place where they can put in goals and managers can put in goals. And then we're going to have documented goals, right? And we're going to know the percentage of your employees that have documented performance goals. Those performance goals are going to feed into or feed from the job description and the outline of the duties. And if there aren't objectives in the job description, we're going to go back and fix those too, because clarity is king when it comes to this kind of stuff. Percentage of employees with documented performance goals, percentage of employees who have had a documented performance review in the last 12 months. That's what we're tracking when it comes to performance metrics. Let's say that you are systematically doing performance reviews. Then I want to know what your rating distribution is. What's the average rating of employees in your organization? We could go by question, or we could go by overall reviews. And let me tell you, if you've got a 5-point Likert scale and your average rating is a 4 or a 5, y'all are being way too generous. Everyone is not exceeding expectations and outstanding up in here. Okay. I talk to clients all the time, and that's just not the case. Plus, people are just meeting expectations, and that's a fabulous place to be. That's a successful employee. And that's usually a 3, not a 4 or a 5. I want to know what that rating distribution is. You need to know that too, to see if your managers are rating accurately. Fifth category that I like to talk about are compensation metrics. This is where we get down into the nitty-gritty. I love doing compensation data studies. And yeah, I know how nerdy that sounds. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I love doing compensation data studies for clients. I want to know what your pay equity ratio is for individuals with the same job title. I want to know, are they paid consistently, regardless of gender, race, and whatever, tenure, whatever it is. I want to know, do we have a pay philosophy? I also want to know what's called a Compa-Ratio. Compa-Ratio. Where does each employee fall in regard to the midpoint of their range? This means that you've done some benchmarking. You've either done it or you've worked with a person like me doing benchmarking, but I want to know, based on the midpoint of the range, where every employee is falling. That's a Compa-Ratio. These connect directly back to, I did an episode on compensation and classification. So if you haven't listened to that one, you're in the middle of a series right now. Go back and listen to that compensation and classification one if you want to go a little bit deeper into what compensation studies and analytics can look like. Powerful, powerful data. So let's talk about building a simple HR metrics system. It doesn't need to be overly complex. I know I just gave you 5 categories with like 3 to 4 things to measure in each. Just start somewhere. You don't need an HR software to start tracking metrics, even though it's a little bit easier if you have one because the data is already built in. And if you have an HR payroll system, which if you don't, I can help you vet those, by the way, because I get it. There's a million of them out there and you don't want to pay a lot for your very first one, but you want to make sure that like you're going to use it, you implement it and actually get what you're paying for and all of those things. But really, you just need consistency in a spreadsheet to start. If you don't have an HR payroll system with a reporting module or whatever, let's just start with some simple spreadsheets. Put it in Google Sheets, put it in Excel doc, whatever it looks like. I recommend starting with these 3. So start with these 3 metrics this month. Turnover rate. Let's start with that. How many people have left in the last 12 months and when? So how many have we lost? I want to know that retention data. And then I want to know when in their employment. Oh my gosh, you guys, I see I've got a little green on my fingers. I've been doing mom projects around here. I want to know though, how many people have left in the last 12 months and at what point in their tenure did they leave? Data tells a story. Second one, time to fill. From the time that we posted a job, when did we have an accepted offer? That's going to help us with our hiring and our onboarding. And then absenteeism. That's the other one that you should have tracked. Are there patterns that you haven't noticed? This data is very powerful. I want to see you have it. I want to see you track it. Those are the 3 metrics that I would start with this month. And you're going to be blown away. So just have a simple tracking setup. One tab is a headcount log with hire date, termination date, reason for termination, and who the manager is. That's one tab. Second tab, open requisition log with open date or posting date, the fill date, when we got an accepted offer, and the source of hire. Where did they come from? We just need to ask them I mean, you should know depending on how they applied, but if they don't, ask them, how did you find us? And then a third tab that's an absence log by employee by month. That's it. 3 tabs, Excel doc, Google Sheet with 3 tabs and those 3 pieces on it. I want you to review this quarterly. You don't even have to review it monthly if you don't want to. Review it quarterly. Put a meeting on your calendar and maybe with other managers, 30 minutes, and it's going to show you something you didn't know. I promise you. It's going to show you something you didn't know. You know that. If you're not tracking it, you know it's going to teach you something. Here's when you know you need to move to an HR software for metrics or turn on your reporting module and start spending the money on that or whatever. When you are about 15 to 20 employees and manual tracking is taking more time than it's worth, that's when you know it's time. You need this data, right? You need this data. This is going to be very important data for you. When you have multiple managers is also a time that you know that you need this data so you can track performance by team. That's very important data. We want to know who's costing us, right? I mean, like the facts are the facts, who's performing. And then what are some of the tools that I recommend? I've got partnerships with a few. I've got partnerships with Rippling, Gusto, United Kronos Group, and I've got a distributor that works with that. I've also got loose relationships with iSolved and a number of other ones, but those are the ones that I have like a personal person that I'm working with that makes life easier. But only buy an HR payroll software if you're actually going to use it, if you're actually going to implement it. And I'll do a whole episode on HR payroll software, but if you don't have somebody in your organization dedicated to implementing this well, or you're not partnering with somebody like me to make sure it gets implemented well, you're not going to get what you're paying for. So don't waste your money. I want you to have it. You need it. But if you're not going to implement it strongly and then have people utilize it, like, don't spend the money. Okay, I want to wrap this up with how to use the data to make decisions. So I've told you about the data. I've given you some examples, but data without action is just a spreadsheet, and nobody needs another spreadsheet, do we? The point is what we're actually going to do with it. And there's ways to use AI, of course, for this as well. HR payroll systems are also using AI to give you insights. So utilize that if you've got it. But Let's say we see a turnover spike in the first 30 days. We know we need to audit our hiring process and or our onboarding process. If we're losing people within the first 30 days of hire, we're either making poor hiring choices or we're not following through with good onboarding. That's one thing. If we see absenteeism climbing in one department, we need to know that it's probably not a coincidence, right? It's almost always a morale signal if we see increased absenteeism in one department. If you've got one manager with 3 times the turnover of any other department manager, we know we've got an issue there. We need to do a little coaching. That's a leadership conversation. It's not an HR policy issue. If your Compa-Ratios are showing that, let's say, women on average are compensated lower, which that is what national data says, and international data, so we know that's a thing. Is it a thing in your organization? Are you tracking that? The pay equity audit, and you want to make sure you're paying attention to this. It's not a coincidence. Let's dig into the data. So we take all of this data, we share it with leadership. We share the data. We have somebody responsible for the data, and then we share the data. HR metrics, my friends, are business metrics. So many people are like, I don't have an HR person, so we don't track this. Yeah, I don't care. Your finance person should be tracking this then. HR metrics are business metrics because these humans are how you get the business done, right? These are HR metrics are finance metrics, is what I would say. Like, it blows my mind that we're not pulling HR data because we don't have an HR person. Like, that's just not a good, like, if on our P&L, compensation and benefits are the largest line item spend, then why in the Wild West are we not tracking these metrics? If you turned over 4 people in the last year, let's say, and that's at a $50,000 average, that's 60 to 100,000 roughly in replacement cost alone that you just ate in your business. I know you don't want to do that, especially as a small business owner. So let's dig in and figure out what we can fix instead of just getting pissed or frustrated with the process. Like, what's the data telling us and what are we doing to act on it? So I recommend you open up a spreadsheet right now, right after this episode, and log every person in your business right now who has left in the last 12 months, what their hire date was, what their exit date was, who their manager was. Boom, first HR metric right there. You got it right there. If you want to dig deeper into this, I have coursework. I've got the HR Foundations coursework. I've got the HR Operating Systems coursework. The strategic HR coursework is going to be launched around August of 2026. So be coming up very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. saltlineadvisors.com/resources. But you can hop on any of that coursework and build out your HR foundation. You can get into this podcast and look at the last episodes and build your HR foundation. If you want to go deeper, go into the coursework. And if you're like, I'm just not going to do that myself, then call me and let's do it together. Let's make this easy together. If you want to start out with a free little mini HR audit just to see where you're at, I spit you out a simple score. It's all automated. I'm not going to call you or stalk you. You can go to saltlineadvisors.com/HR audit and get that information for yourself. I ask you questions from the 13 foundational areas of HR as I've described them, and it spits you out a score. Do you need attention? Are you at risk? Are you smooth sailing? It just gives you a score. So that way you can sleep better at night or know what to do next. So the next episode is going to be on workforce planning. You're not going to want to miss it. So if you have not subscribed, go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Please make sure that you subscribe. I'd love it, love it if you leave me a rating or a review. That helps me understand, what people need and what's like striking, thoughts to help you move forward in your business. Like, I want to know what was impactful for you, or give me some constructive criticism like, hey, it's too high level, or you talk too fast, whatever it is, I love to hear your feedback. I've been putting episodes out every single week since January of 2024. So about 2.5 years. And I love to see the subscriptions grow. I love to get the interaction. And it's been super fun for me. I've done a few speaking engagements based off people listening to my episodes. And I've, of course, got some consulting clients. And I mean, that's not the exact point. I want to put this information out to the masses, but also it does point out to you like, oh, we need some attention in this area and we want to work with a professional. We're not going to hire somebody. It doesn't make sense in my small to mid-sized business to hire a person full-time to focus on this. So let's just call in a pro. And it turns out that's me. So you can go to saltlineadvisors.com/contact to get in touch with me. So subscribe, leave me a rating or review, and share this with your peers, other small to mid-sized business owners who are in the thick of it, just like you are, I get it. This work can feel like chaos. We don't just innately know what metrics we should be measuring, but hopefully this gave you a good guiding light, a good first step to start. So friends, don't waste the chaos. Embrace it. And I'd love to see you next week.